Hi, this is a video response to Kittkat06's video about fairies. And I'm making a video response to you because when I sat down and write a response, I realized I would have to use several posts to say what I had to say, so a video response was easier. Alright, first let me say that I really enjoyed your video. I like the idea of fairies, at least some types of fairies, as insect spirits. I haven't heard that particular take on it before, and it's quite interesting. That being said, to me, the little pixie type, the little Tinkerbell type fairies with gossamer wings are not the type of fairies that I associate with most. Perhaps because I've grown up in Norway and in Scandinavia there are still a lot of traditions around the Fae, or as are more commonly said here, the below grounders. And the below grounders are human-sized. The most common below grounder would be the holder, which in folklore are humans. Most today say only females, but that's in time when people believed in these. They were both men and women, and it's also a common misconception today that holder are female trolls. They are not. Trolls are a completely different type of fae. But yeah, the holder are beautiful humans with the tail of a cow who live in human-like societies, but opposite, so that they are active during the night and they have their animals go go out pasturing during the winter, so they have the same cycles as humans, but opposite. And in most tales about the holder, they encounter humans, and they can be both harmful and helpful. They are known to seduce young men and young women, but it's also possible for humans to seduce them and then marry them. It's a complex myth, but that's more my image of a fae than the little Tinkerbells. So to me, the butterfly insect movie, I think you might be onto something when it comes to the pixies, but I think it's important to note that there are a huge family of fae which are not seen as little creatures with butterfly wings. Now, yeah, my hobby talks about the Rusalka, which are basically in Russian mythology they are something. They are ghosts, the ghosts of drowned women who live around rivers and will drown men, but at the same time they will also help abused children. And that brings me into the second point I wanted to make, and that is the idea that fae is evil. I think that when you look at most folklores about fae, it is not so much that they are evil or demonic as that they are alien. They are basically so different from us, and they are very powerful, so that if you don't know exactly how to act around them, then you can insult them by accident, and that can lead to negative results for you. Just to make my point, I don't know if you've heard in the news about that story. There was an English school teacher who went to, I think it was Iran, to teach grade school. So anyway, her class had a teddy bear as class mascot. And so the teacher started a contest to decide what the name of this mascot should be. Well, the winner wanted to name the mascot Muhammad. And the teacher thought that would be okay because several of the kids in class was named Muhammad. So she named the teddy bear Muhammad, and soon afterwards she was arrested. She risked whippings and several years in prison, and there were huge protests outside the prison she was held in, demanding her death, for they said it was blasphemy to call a thing, a physical object, Muhammad. That was idolatry. Now, were these people in this country evil? No, they weren't. However, this very simple thing that to us in the Western world would seem almost silly. It's like we would think, okay, if they didn't like the teddy bear being named Muhammad, they could always just take it up with her and tell her to rename the bear. But to them, that was a huge insult to their faith. And I think it's a little bit the same with Fae. That you can do things in best of intentions, but because they think so alien, like they are so different from us, you can end up stepping on toes. Like take the legend of the brownies. They are perceived to be small, about this tall about the size of a Barbie doll. Men and women dressed in brown. Around the world you have the same folklore, and sometimes they're dressed in grey, sometimes they're dressed in green there, but basically in the English folklore they are dressed in brown there by brownies, and they move into a house and they do housework. And you should show your appreciation for them by leaving them little gifts of food and expressing your appreciation. But if you thank them, that's an insult. And at best, they will just then leave and not do any more work for you. And at worst, they will start doing pranks all around your house. Now, to us, being thanked for our work, that would be appropriate, but for them that is the same as saying, thank you, I do not need your services anymore. So, and when you look at all those different stories of people encountering Fae, very often it is when human beings get into trouble with Fae, it's not because the Fae are evil in themselves, but they are difficult to understand, and then the human beings breaks some rule that is hard to know about. And I think that when working with Fae within the occult, one should be aware of that the Fae are very alien. It's the same as working with other types of spirits. Non-human spirit can be very so different that what we see as completely harmless or even polite can be seen as an insult. Now, I know it's fiction, but very often when I try to tell people about how to be careful when it comes to spirit magic, I used the example of Hellraiser. Now I know the later films doesn't follow this concept that much, and the Cenobites, the demons in the film, are pure evil, but in the first movies they are just different, they work by different rules. So that when someone solves the puzzle box in the movie, which basically, if you haven't seen it, it's about this ancient puzzle box. When someone solves it, demons clad in leather rush from nowhere and rip you to pieces and drag you to hell. Or, well, it's not hell, it's their own dimension, but yeah. Anyway, because in their worldview, solving that box is giving your consent to being taken to their world. And I think it's the same with Fae. That, and with many other types of spirits, that things that you do can have a very different meaning for these creatures. That doesn't mean they're evil, that doesn't mean that working with them is negative. It means that you should have as much knowledge as possible to avoid stepping in those salads. And the last point I wanted to address were the idea of Fae as aliens. Actually, I have heard a lot about the other way around, the aliens being Fae, and that to me makes a lot of sense. When you look at stories of alien abductions, then they are very similar to what in earlier times would have been a Fae abduction. And you see, there are a lot of legends of people being abducted by Fae, and they are very, 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 very similar. And some people say that in this day and age, it is easier for most people to believe in little grey men from outer space than a fairy. And that somehow, since fairies are magical in nature, that we might perceive them as we imagine they would be. So that someone who believes in fairies might see a green-clad dancing maid who lure you into the forest, while someone who is very scientific-minded and very modern in their worldview might see a UFO and being taken away by a little green man, and someone who is very Christian might see themselves as being raised up by angels to receive messages from God. Some people say, and I'm not necessarily saying that I agree with it, but some people say that these spiritual abductions, if you will, are the same phenomena, but our worldview changes what sort of creatures one sees. And I hold a lot more credibility to that than to the idea that aliens themselves are fairies. Anyway, that's my video response. So yeah, I loved your video. You have very interesting views. And I'm looking forward to your next video. I hope you have a great evening. Blessed be, and goodbye.